Hey, what's up? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another live stream. And today we have a lot to talk about because, once again, every single time I go live on Friday night here, my time, the market seems to be dumping, and it is no different tonight. So, let's all give a round of applause to the market for dumping once again for my stream. Although today is a little bit bigger, and I would argue a great time to DCA if you've got any spare cash on the side. I have a few pretty bullish things I want to talk about today when it comes to Caspa in particular. And before we get into that, though, make sure you guys pay your bar tabs on your way in or on your way out before you leave the bar, which is hitting the like button and the subscribe button if you have not already. And just a reminder, at 10,000 subscribers, we are giving away 10,000 Caspa, which at the time is probably worth a little bit under $1,000. A few days ago, it was worth a little bit over $1,000. By the time the market tops, it's going to be worth well more than that. So if we can hit 10,000 subscribers during the peak of the market, somebody is going to be given a hell of a lot of money that they can either cash out or ride down through the bear market into next cycle to do whatever you want with. So make sure you hit that subscribe button too if you have not already. And I do want to give a shout out to Wyatt. Where is he here? Because Wyatt is not going to be able to join us live tonight, but he jumped into the stream an hour ago, made his comment, hit the like button, and then peaced out. That right there is a true Caspian, a true Caspa legend. So shout out to Wyatt. And also, it looks like yeah, there it is. Also, man from Bogota, welcome in, by the way, again. Glad to have you back. First round is on him. So thank him, everybody, for the first round of drinks for free for all of you. Okay. Let me know what you're drinking. Let me know how you're feeling. Is anybody scared of this pullback that we're getting right now? Because I'm going to give you some I guess calming sensation potentially for what is going on right now. But with no further ado, get your comments and your questions in. We'll get to them second half of the live stream. But I've got a few things that I want to go over before that. So let's get this comment off the screen real quick. And we're going to pull up the internet because there's a few things here. And the first one is... Hold on one second here. Fed Governor Kugler is resigning, giving Trump a nominee on committee that sets interest rates. So this lady, I don't know if she is, pro or anti cutting rates right now, because I know it's kind of split in the, I guess, Fed circle. But nonetheless, she is going to be resigning this month, and that gives President Trump a nominee that he can pick whoever he wants to fill that seat, which I would imagine is going to be pro-cut rates, right? Is going to be somebody that is going to want what he wants, okay? And ultimately what we want, because we want altcoins to go up. So, first things first, that puts another I guess, dovish potential Fed governor on the committee. Next, Christopher Waller is another Fed governor, and Michelle Bowman have expressed that the Federal Reserve should cut interest rates. Waller stated on August 1st. So that was today. The rate cut should not be delayed until the labor market declines. Both dissented from the FOMC's decision on July 30th, 2025, to maintain the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5%. So basically what they're saying here, there's two other governors here that are advocating that the Fed needs to cut rates before the labor market collapses, right? Because what that's going to do is send us into a recession. Could it be a short recession? Yes, kind of like the COVID pandemic was, where it was kind of V-shaped. But I don't know how you guarantee that necessarily. And so what their premise is that we need to look ahead and see that there's cracks in the labor market right now, which we'll get to in a second. And therefore, the rate cuts need to happen now so that the labor market actually holds and does not collapse. And so I would argue that is another, I don't know how much power, two of them have. I think let me know if, I think it's a group decision, or does Powell actually make the final decision? I want to say it's they vote on it and the majority wins, but I could be wrong on that. But nonetheless, there's more and more of these Fed governors that are wanting rates to be cut before something breaks, right? And if we look at the article here, the U.S. job market was weak in July, and previous months were worse than thought. So I saw a chart earlier today that I could not find, but it basically said that it was pretty much every single sector that they account for in the labor market, right, when they're using their data or collecting their data. There was only like two categories that were positive, and one of them was barely positive, and the other one was fairly high, but everything else was negative job report, which kind of indicates that the job market's weakening to a point where potentially next month or the following month things get really bad. And then on top of that, you've got markets on all accounts kind of collapsing right now, right? And the stock market, the S&P 500, I believe, today fell like 28%, if I saw that right. And that's ridiculous for the stock market, for the S&P 500. That's like a meme coin in the crypto market, falling 28% in a 24-hour period. That's insane. And so when you look at all of that together, maybe, just maybe, this is a targeted scenario to make everything look extremely weak so that it forces the Fed's hand either this month or next month to cut rates, right? Because even the odds for September have shrunk as of yesterday. I haven't looked at them as of today after all these market crash and job reports data coming out. But the odds of a September rate cut actually went down. Before it was like a 70-something% chance that rates were going to be cut, and it went down. I don't remember the exact number, but it went down after yesterday. The Powell was extremely hawkish. So there's two scenarios here, at least the way I look at it. One of them's got to be true, and the first one is that Jerome Powell and Donald Trump actually hate each other, and Jerome Powell is doing this to spite, right, for political reasons. Because with some signs in the labor market, he shouldn't be as hawkish as he is right now. I understand the inflation part of things, and technically he's got a point there. But when you've got a bunch of other really smart people saying you don't want to be too late, because then you get thrown into a recession, then maybe, if there's enough people saying that, then maybe there's something to it, right? I even saw, I think, Meet Kevin today say that he thinks that the Fed is too late, and, he's all into this macro stuff and, in tune with everything. And he's even saying that they need to cut rates, as well as Waller, who we went over a second ago, was indicating that he thinks that we need a 1.5% interest rate cut as soon as possible, and that would be huge. The second part of this is maybe they're in cahoots, Jerome Powell and Donald Trump. Maybe they're pretending to hate each other to the public's eye, right? I don't know how realistic this might be, but I think that they understand that as soon as rates start to be cut on a regular basis, the market is, the top's going to be unscrewed on the market, and it's just going to go straight up. And maybe they're not quite ready for that yet, would be my other, theory about what could be happening right now. I would imagine one of the two are correct, or, Powell just might be, of his word, and he really thinks inflation data did go up a touch. But I think that was only in one category that they account for, if I remember correctly. But maybe he is just worried about inflation, and maybe he really is just sticking to his guns because of that. And the tariff information is kind of back and forth. Well, it gets, this amount of percentage, and then he pulls it back, and then he gets more strict and then pulls it back again. And maybe that in tune is hurting the market. I also heard today that the courts actually might judge against Donald Trump for actually being able to set tariffs without going through Congress. And for market purposes, if they do vote against that, would actually be beneficial, because then the inflation, fears out into the future would potentially go away, and rate cuts would have no other hurdle, right, based on what Powell has been saying. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes right now. Okay, so comment just came in, Frank. Is the rate cut probability for September skyrocketed to 73% today? That makes sense because of the fact of the labor market data and the market's collapsing, basically. So that actually makes sense that the odds went back up. So that's good, right? And that's what kind of makes me think that the market makers know what they're doing. The people in charge know what they're doing. And they understand that Powell is not going to budge, or the cohesive group is not going to budge until there's a reason to, right? Until there's enough sickness in the market to make that happen. And it wouldn't surprise me if at one phone call, flip of a button, the President of the United States calls a few people and says, whatever they have to do to make the markets go majorly red for a few days, scare some people and make things more acceptable, for a rate cut, and maybe force the Fed's hand to do that. Would not surprise me at all, right? We're not privy to any of that information because we're just little people living on a planet, right? We have no control over anything, but there are people out there that do have control, and I still think that when it's all said and done, remember, we only need like a month or two for a legitimate alt season, and it still seems likely that in Q4, November, December, we get that altcoin season that we've all been waiting for, right? I can't promise anybody that, obviously, but, based on history, it's happened every fourth quarter since Bitcoin's inception of the post-halving year, not every quarter of every year, or fourth quarter of every year. The fourth quarter of the post-halving year. And I'm just thinking to myself, why would this time be different? Why would the people in charge not want to set it up so that they can make a lot of money, right? It wouldn't make any sense that they are buying Bitcoin. Ethereum is getting eaten up by institutions. Caspa has a few big wallets that are currently buying double-digit millions worth of Caspa. Like, those type of people are not going to want to buy if they know we're going into a bear market. I've said this 100 million times now. But just think about that for a second, right? Big money, smart money, they know when the bear market's going to start. And if they're consistently buying large amounts of crypto right now, I would imagine they're buying it knowing that we are going to have a blow off top, a parabolic run in the near future, and that's when they're going to sell, right? At a 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x, whatever it might be for them, depending on what they're buying. So every time I think about the scenario of, are we going into a bear market, I just think about, big players are still buying right now. And that makes me feel more comfortable to continue buying, right? It just wouldn't make any sense otherwise, okay? And you got to remember also, in bull markets, historically, Bitcoin can take 30% corrections. It's perfectly normal. And altcoins can take even more of a correction than 30% on the way up to the parabolic run. And so if we look at the correction that we're having right now, another thing I wanted to mention too, though, was that Bitcoin dropped from like 116 or 117,000 today to 113. That's a pretty significant drop for Bitcoin, and altcoins stayed pretty steady. And that actually gives me bullish vibes as well. That doesn't mean that tomorrow altcoins won't tank, right? But initially, they're holding up pretty well, right? They're in the last 24 hours, Bitcoin is down 2%, and altcoins, are collectively, between 3 and 5% down. So they held up very well. If we were, going into a bear market, I would imagine altcoins would have absolutely collapsed today. And that just hasn't happened yet. There's some meme coins I saw that are down 20, 30%, but that's what you get with meme coins sometimes. So you just got to know that when you're holding them. But you can also get on the other end of that 50, 60% gains on the other side of this. So immediately on the other side. So when it's all said and done, guys, it's hard for me, and I could be wrong, right? I'm not telling you matter-of-factly that everything I just said is true, but it's hard for me to believe that everything right now is doom and gloom and we're headed into a bear market. If we get into Q4 and Q4 passes us, right, and we're midway into Q1 of next year and we're still sitting in this same scenario, then maybe we need to rethink something. But we still haven't even come to the point where we do get a parabolic run, previously in history. And so I still think that it's very likely that we, at some point in Q4, we're going to get this altcoin run and we're going to get this blow off top still. And the market's crashing right now. The labor market, showing major cracks is a good thing for rate cuts, which is why, Frank, thank you for commenting, the probability in September skyrocketed back up to 73%. Okay? That's a good thing. So, let me know what you guys think, but it's hard for me to be bearish right now when massive, players in the market are continuing to buy. Because the number one thing I always tell everybody is swim with the whales and you will do just fine. Right now, whales are buying. Whales are not selling right now. And as far as Caspa goes, check this out. Because if we go into the top addresses here, and we go into our favorite buddy, wallet number 2, who's actually getting close to wallet number 1, by the way, as far as the amount of Caspa he holds. It's not too far away. Yesterday, bought 10 million Caspa. Yesterday, bought 3 million Caspa in a second transaction. And the same day earlier, did a test transaction for 1 CAS. Some people I saw asking why there would be 1 Caspa received on these wallets, and most of the time that's just for testing to make sure that the funds made it to that wallet. So it's a test transaction, and then I don't know, can you guys even see that, or am I giving you tiny little screens here? Yeah, a lot of times these one Caspa transactions are just tests so that they make sure the money goes into the right place. It arrives, and then, as you can see, they load it up after that once they felt safe that the money did arrive to the right wallet. 3 million and 10 million. And whoever this wallet number 2 is probably has some connections, I would imagine, knows some people, and I don't think he's going to be buying 10. Well, I mean, if you add these two together, 13 million Caspa, on a day where he is being told that, or knows that we're going into a bear market immediately. He's going to want to profit off of that buy and be able to realize some of those gains probably within the next 4 months, which I think is still going to happen. So that's something I always look at, right? If you ever feel like, is this it for the cycle, right? And this isn't necessarily set in stone, but just look at the big players in the market. The Ethereum ETFs are having major inflows right now. That's an altcoin, right? Caspa wallet number 2 is buying 13 million Caspa yesterday. He picked the wrong day technically because it went down a little bit today, although it's not that down that much today compared to yesterday. But anyways, it doesn't matter. The big players are still buying, right? The whales are still buying. So we need to swim with the whales. We buy when they buy and we sell when they sell. Okay? Very simple. And that's how you make money. The other thing I wanted to show you guys real quick before we jump into the comment section is if we look at, where did it go? Let's go back to the dashboard here. Check this out. Okay, so let me move this over so you guys can see it. Transaction counts. Yesterday, there was over 1 million transactions on the Caspa chain. Okay? The day before that, there was 564,000 transactions on the Caspa chain. The day before that, 200,000. Right? Today we've dropped back down to just under 600,000. But the thing I wanted to reference with this, 1 million transactions in a day is pretty solid. Like that's look at this right here, Ethereum. The highest amount of transactions that Ethereum's ever done in one day. This would get out of my way. Is, come on. Why won't it jump up there for me? Okay, well, anyways, if you can, I don't know why it's not letting me go up here. It's just under 200 million. No, I'm sorry. It's just under, just under 2 million. I believe that is. 1.5 million, 1 million. Yeah. So Ethereum averages, roughly 1 million transactions a day. Okay? And it is the biggest chain out there, right? I mean, longevity-wise. But then you go to Solana's daily transactions, and Solana does more. It does about 200 million without, one non-voting transactions. It does about 100 million. Okay? So it does like 100 times what Ethereum does, roughly on a daily basis, which is crazy. But Solana's kind of taken over the, meme coin, where a lot of people go to have fun, right? And play around on the chain. And what we're hoping to do is, have Caspa kind of take over a percentage of that business as well. But when you look at Ethereum, Caspa yesterday did roughly as many transactions as Ethereum does on a regular basis, right? And it almost moved up to 2 million yesterday, but it's been around longer and a lot more people use it. Caspa doesn't even have smart contracts officially out yet, and it did 1 million transactions yesterday. So that might be part of testing the Casplex smart contract system. But think about that. That's only some developers and probably very few other people, right? Very small percentage of people testing that network. Just imagine what potentially could happen once it's opened up to all of the public and the adoption starts to grow. Do you think we can average 1 million transactions a day? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. 500,000 transactions a day would be huge if we can just average something like that right at the beginning, So it's interesting to see. But this metric right here with the transaction counts, as well as wallet number 2 buying 13 million more Caspa yesterday or 2 days ago, kind of just shows you that things are still bullish for the chain. And also the fact that Caspa held its own. Bitcoin dropped from 116, 17K to 113K, and Caspa went down a couple cents. Okay? Bitcoin's down around 2% in 24 hours, whereas Caspa is down, I forgot that you probably can't see that. Caspa is down 4%. So it's double. But it's held its own pretty well during this crash. Could that change tomorrow? Yeah, anything can change. But just remember, when it's all said and done, 30% corrections are normal every single bull market. Okay? And we're not even close to a 30% correction right now. So, let's keep the optimism. This isn't a channel for bearish talk until maybe we're going into a bear market. But even that's not bearish. That's not even bearish, because that's going to mean that we have already made, right, a lot of money. Hopefully we all sold a lot of our profits and made some good money, and we're going to head back into the bear market next year, and we're going to get to buy altcoins at dirt cheap prices again, and then wait for the next parabolic run next cycle. And I would argue, as fun as the bull market is, it's almost just as fun after you've taken profits and you're sitting on a gold mine of money compared to what you had before. It's almost exactly the same amount of fun, for me at least, roughly a year later, or 12 to 16 months later, when we hit the bottom of the bear market, when everything is just completely collapsed. You get to start DCAing back into certain projects, and we get to find, the next projects for the next cycle, new projects that are going to make us a ton of money that we can, ride through next cycle with. Although Caspa is going to be one of those because it's going to stay around. So, that's enough of me yapping. Let's move into the chat and see what you guys have to say, because you guys are more important collectively than I am. So, Katana says, "Good evening from Morocco. Always bullish on Caspa." Morocco, huh? Welcome, Katana. I appreciate you coming in and hanging out from Morocco. Let's see. The what ups. Good evening, Cat Daddy. Hope you are well. Another opportunity to load the boat with the jobs report and further tariff scares today. Celebrating with your live and a green tea. Cheers, my guy. I appreciate you coming back and hanging out. And yes, today is definitely a good DCA day for sure. Because like I said, I don't think this cycle is over. It's usually at the point where everybody throws in the towel, right? Which is kind of happening to some extent right now, where things flip on a dime. And I welcome bad news right now, because we need something to break in order for the Fed to change their mind. Otherwise, we're going to go into next year with rate cuts staying the same or even going higher based on what Powell said a couple days ago, or was it yesterday? And that's not what we want. We don't want to go into early next year with Powell still saying everything looks fine. We're still scared of inflation. Jobs look good. Everything everything looks good. There's no reason to cut rates because then we're never going to get what we want. Until potentially that means alt season, could happen Q1 next year, but that would throw everybody for a loop, and it would be extremely difficult to try and judge whether that's going to happen or not. So we want what's happening right now to happen, and we want it to stay steady like this through the month of August so that they will cut rates. Because then we're going to get what we want most likely. You got to go through a little bit of pain to get what you want on the other end, right? And in our case, when we see pain, we see buying opportunities, which is going to ultimately make us more money, hopefully Q4 this year. Can you see Binance not listing Caspa this year? Good question. I could see it either way, really. My initial thoughts are that they are going to list it at some point. And for those of you who haven't heard me say this before, it's because they're a business and they want a return on their investment. Remember, they have to buy Caspa, right, out of their own pockets. There's nothing given to them like a VC-backed coin that has a pot that is, given to these exchanges for listing, right? Caspa doesn't have any spare tokens for them, so they have to buy them all, and since they have to do that, they want a return on their investment. They're right? If they were given them for free, then the return on their investment is basically anything because they didn't have to pay for the tokens. But if they're buying them at 6, 7, 8 cents, I don't know what price they're buying them at. They want to make some money off of that before, and in order to do that, the market conditions as a whole have to turn around, and macro conditions have to lighten up a little bit. And so I honestly think Q4 this year they're going to list. That's just my guess. I don't know that for sure. They listed futures so long ago. They created a mining farm, and every single coin that they've listed futures for has ended up being listed spot at some point. And so you also got to remember that Wolfie is in contact with Binance. He says they contact him on a weekly basis, asking questions about the tech and how to stay relevant. Okay? And in his words, they're probably not doing that for fun. They're trying to keep up to date so that when they do spot list, everything is ready to go. And, turns over flawlessly. So, I guess to answer your question, it could go either way, honestly. But my opinion is that they still will list. In Q4, probably. And the reason is I thought they would have listed earlier, but I thought the market was going to turn bullish, right, earlier. I thought they were going to... I think the initial coming into this year was like a May or a June rate cut. But that never happened. And so we have to adjust on the fly when stuff like that happens. And if that would have happened, right, then maybe we would be in a different spot right now. Maybe Binance would have already listed. Maybe altcoin prices would be a little higher right now. We just don't know. But, we can't have control over anything that, we can't control anything that's out of our control, basically. And so we just have to go with the flow, and we have to react to what is, happening right in front of us. And unfortunately, what's happening right in front of us is altcoins not go up yet. Timmy, Cas has so much going for it. Excited for the future. It does. It has more going for it than any other project in the space. Hands down, in my opinion. And I don't even think that is debatable. We won't go into everything right now, but most of you guys know what I'm talking about. From the way it was launched to the big things that are happening on the horizon right around the corner. Justin, tempted on going out tonight to relieve some stress. Hey, do what you want to do. Release that stress however you want to release it. Poor boy is frustrated and drinking a German beer. Timmy's drinking an aluminum pint of Coors Light. You know what's funny? Coors Light used to be my favorite beer, hands down, when I was just out of high school up into through my 20s. That was my go-to, basically. Because it was cheap. Probably is the main reason. Crypto Bill is scared? No, just aggravated. Yeah, we're all aggravated. I mean, let's be honest. This has been going on for a while now, and you just got to remember that this is why a lot of people don't make money in this space, is because the vast majority of time spent in the market is this. It's frustrating. It makes you want to rip your hair out. It makes you want to sell everything and just walk away. And a lot of people do that. It's the very small percentage that hold on that actually come out and make some money in the end. So I'm extremely frustrated too. It's annoying. I want to see my portfolio go up, like significantly go up. And we haven't seen that in a very long time. We get little pumps and then it goes back down. Little pumps and it goes back down. And at some point, right, at some point that's going to turn. And I urge everybody to stay on the train because it's not going to wait for you. And it will happen out of nowhere. And when it starts to move, it's going to probably move very fast. For any of you guys who have been here long enough, you know what I'm talking about. It can go down very fast, but it can go up just as fast or faster. Right? You'll blink and you'll be at a 3x. Yeah, August 1st today. It is a good thing to be in a new month. I do think August is going to be very choppy based on what's already happening today. So make sure that you put your tough guy boots on and just be ready for some choppiness this month. And I think that's going to be a good thing, though, because, like I said, we need things to stay pretty bearish for this month in order for rate cuts either the end of this month or in September. So just remember, if we do see more downside, if we do see choppiness, if we do see a bunch of red this month, that's actually a good thing. because that gives us a better chance of an actual rate cut, where Jerome Powell's not going to be able to talk his way into holding anymore or raising rates, which was crazy that he even mentioned that a couple days ago. All the economy and labor data indicate that we are getting higher inflation, weaker economy, and probably no rate cuts this year. The labor data that I saw today suggested that there was major cracks. Every sector was negative except for a couple, and that would indicate that the labor market's weaker than expected. Inflation numbers did go up a little bit, though. I doubt we're going to see them go up like crazy, though. They might fluctuate a little bit, but I don't think we're going to see, what happened in the 1970s where, you get a major spike in inflation and then it comes back down a little bit, and then they cut too early again and then it spikes back up. I don't think that's going to happen this time. Markets were stagnant for multiple years in that case, and I don't see that happening. I also think that based on what's happening right now today, with the labor market stuff that I saw and the markets crashing, and again I'll mention the S&P 500. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw it at a negative 28% today in a 24-hour period, which is insane. I don't know that that's even ever happened. I think that that's signs that we still could get a rate cut this year. Paul Clinton, are you related to Bill? If no rate cuts until December, Caspa may go into 2026 sub 20 cents. It's possible. We're just going to have to play it by ear, right? Because you've got the hard head on one side and the hard head on the other, and we'll see who wins out, and we'll see if we can get rate cuts early enough for a parabolic run in Q4 this year. Although, I will revert you guys back to 2017. Things look very similar to 2017. Donald Trump was the president in 2017 in his first year, just like he is now, and rates were being raised in 2017 in Q4, and we still got a parabolic run and an alt season. So there is precedence out there that it has happened before, and that it could potentially happen again. I don't know. Who got their Probify NFT today? I don't even know what that is. Did anybody else get a Probify NFT? Timmy Tim has never sold one Caspa. I have technically not sold a Caspa either, except for a very small amount when buying Nacho and Goat. And by the way, Goat is down huge today. It's like a 30 or 40% drop. Don't know what's going on with that. Nacho has been surprising me as of late. Trump has 300 million worth of ETH with a question mark. I don't know. Does he? I know he has some. I know his son has some too. ChatGPT says wallet number 2, Binance, won't list until there are at least 1.5 to 2 billion CAS in it. How many does it currently have? That's interesting. I don't know how much you can trust ChatGPT to know that wallet number 2 is Binance. But if we do take a look at wallet number 2 has... Let's go down here. Where is it? Wallet number 2 has a total of 840.2 million KASPA, so almost 1 billion. 200 million more. To us, that sounds like a hell of a lot, but to him, it's probably not that much. Or them. So if ChatGPT says 1.5 to 2 billion, then you're almost halfway there. Roughly. If that's true. I've been thinking what to do if Dagnite and smart contracts bundle are not ready before the bull market. Well, the Casplex smart contracts they have an official launch date of August 30 or 31st. So that's like 30 days away. And so they will launch unless there's a hiccup or something goes wrong. So I don't think there's much of a chance of nothing launching before the end of the market. And then Eager Labs is in testnet now, and they're supposed to launch in Q4, which is like, a month or two away? So they haven't actually officially given a launch date, but they did say Q4, so take that for what it's worth. But, I mean, Q4 starts in... actually, when is Q4? I don't even know. September? No, October. I think October. So they could launch as early as October. Daddy, chill. It's World War III. Yeah. Proverbial. Nathan, how can I speed up this video? Where's the 2x speed? Bro talks in slow motion. Well, there is a 2x or multiple x speeds on YouTube. So you can speed me up if you want to. But this is how I talk. So, those of you who don't like it are just going to either have to speed it up or not watch. I can't change my speech patterns. In fact, I had a comment the other day. Maybe it was you, actually. No, it wasn't Nathan. Who told me that I say and then I say something and I say and pause, and he asked me if I could talk normally. But when I make videos, not even just live streams, but like my actual videos that I make during the week, I make them on the fly. I'm not reading off of a script like a lot of people are, right? So they're talking real smoothly because they're reading off a script and they can just look at the words in front of them. I'm actually thinking as I'm talking, because like real time telling you guys what I feel. And so there is going to be pauses. There is going to be some slow me thinking what I'm going to say for my next words. So that's just how I am. Love it or hate it, that's just how I am. Maybe one day, and I don't take money from anybody, so it's not like I'm making a ton of money to have somebody write me scripts. I don't have enough time to write my own scripts where I could talk smoother, have a better, layout and the whole 9 yards, make everything look super professional. I just don't have that. And so if you guys want to, where was he, Nathan, or whoever that guy was that commented on my video last time, want to pay me some money to get a script writer, then my videos could be a little bit faster and smoother. But I apologize for anybody who doesn't like it. But as of now, it ain't changing. All right, guys, I got to take off. I got baby duty. Fiance's got to go to her part-time job so she can get out of the house. excuse me, so she can get out of the house. And so I got to take off. I appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you pay your bar tabs before you take off. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And remember, at 10,000 subscribers, we are giving away 10,000 Caspa, which is going to be worth a hell of a lot of money 4 months from now, roughly. Okay? If we can hit that 10,000 before the end of the year, then somebody's going to get a haul of money just handed to them. So, again, I appreciate everyone for being here. I love you all. Pack your damn bags before it's too late. This is a great dip to DC.